There is something about Thanksgiving that always made me feel warm inside. The smell of pumpkin pie baking in the oven, the sound of family laughter echoing through the house the way my mom would hum while setting the table. Growing up in suburban Denver, those holidays were everything to me. But this year felt different. Everything changed when my sister Emily married her husband. Late, one November evening, my phone lit up with a text from Mom. I picked it up, read the words on the screen, and felt my heart sink. "You are not coming to Thanksgiving. Your sister's husband says you would kill the vibe." I stared at those words for a long moment. Then I set my phone down and said nothing. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you have ever been underestimated by family, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how this story ends, because what happened Thursday morning changed everything. Trust me, you will not see this coming. I grew up in a pretty typical middle-class family. My dad worked as a mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant, and my mom spent her days as a nurse at the local hospital. They worked hard, provided for us, and did their best to give Emily and me a good life. Emily is 3 years older than me, and growing up, we were close. She was the golden child, the one who always seemed to do everything right. Beautiful, smart, popular at school. Teachers loved her. Our parents beamed with pride whenever she brought home another perfect report card or won another award. I was different. Quieter. While Emily thrived in the spotlight, I preferred sitting in my room with my computer. I taught myself how to code when I was 14. I spent hours learning programming languages, studying design principles, diving deep into the world of digital marketing. My parents did not really understand it. To them, I was wasting time staring at a screen when I could have been out playing sports or doing something more normal, like Emily. They worried about me. I heard them talking sometimes late at night, wondering if I would ever find my way. After college, I took a job at a small startup in Boulder. The pay was not great, but I loved the work. I was learning, constantly pushing myself, building skills that I knew would matter someday. My family did not see it that way. Emily had already landed a job as a marketing manager at an established company with a solid salary, benefits, the whole package. Family dinners became uncomfortable. My parents would ask about my job, then quickly change the subject. I could see the concern in their eyes. Emily would talk about her latest campaign, her promotion, her success. I would mention a project I was working on, and everyone would nod politely before moving on. "Why do you not try something more stable?" Mom asked me once. "Something like what Emily does." I just smiled and said I was happy where I was. The truth was, I believed in what I was doing. I saw where the world was heading. Technology was not just the future, it was the present. I kept working, kept learning, kept pushing forward. 5 years into that startup, everything changed. We got acquired by a major tech company. Our innovation caught the attention of TechVantage Solutions, one of the biggest players in the industry. They bought us out, and suddenly I found myself being offered a position I never imagined. Senior Director of Digital Innovation, a corner office in downtown Denver, a team of 20 talented people reporting to me, decision-making authority that most people work decades to achieve. I was 32 years old. But here is the thing. I did not tell my family the full story. When they asked what happened after the acquisition, I just said I got to keep my job. I did not mention the title, the salary that had tripled overnight, or the fact that I now had real influence in a company with thousands of employees. To them, I was still just doing IT work. I could have corrected them. I could have laid it all out. But something stopped me. Maybe I wanted to see if they would value me for who I was, not what I had achieved. 2 years ago, Emily met Brad Taylor at some networking event. He was 35 tall, well-dressed, and worked as a sales executive for a mid-sized company. The first time I met Brad was at a family dinner. He walked in with confidence, shook my hand firmly, and flashed a smile that showed too many teeth. There was something about the way he looked at me, something I could not quite place. Arrogance, maybe. Or the look of someone sizing up competition that did not exist. "So, Dirk, what do you do?" he asked, settling into the chair next to Emily. "I work in tech," I said simply. He nodded, that smile still fixed on his face. "Oh, IT guy. That is cool. I am in sales, more of a people person, you know." There it was, that subtle dismissiveness. Like working with computers meant I could not possibly understand how to interact with humans. I just smiled and nodded. Emily looked at Brad like he had just said the most brilliant thing in the world. My parents were charmed. He had that effect on people. 6 months later, they got married. The wedding was big, expensive, and mostly about Brad showing off to his colleagues. I stood in the family photos, wore my suit, gave my toast, and genuinely wished them happiness. Emily was my sister. I wanted her to be happy, but I noticed Brad getting more comfortable around the family. And with that comfort came a change in how he treated me. It started small. Little comments here and there that seemed harmless on the surface but carried weight underneath. At a family dinner last April, Brad was talking about his new BMW. He turned to me with that same smile. "So, Dirk, what are you driving these days?" "Just a Honda Civic," I said. "Reliable and practical." He laughed, actually laughed out loud. "Still driving that man you need to upgrade. Sales is where the money is at. You should think about it." Emily said nothing. My mom quickly changed the subject to dessert, but I felt that comment settle into my chest like a stone. The implication was clear. I was lesser. I was behind. I needed to catch up to where Brad already was. In July, we had another family gathering. Brad spent most of the evening talking about a huge deal he had just closed, how he had convinced a reluctant client to sign a 6-figure contract, how he was now one of the top performers at his company. Then he turned to me. "So you still doing the computer stuff? You know, installing software, fixing printers, that kind of thing?" I kept my voice even. "Something like that." "Good for you, man," he said, patting my shoulder. "Everyone needs tech support." The table laughed. It was meant to be funny, a joke between family. But it stung. Because to Brad, that is all I was. Tech support. The guy you call when your laptop stops working. Not someone with vision, leadership, or real responsibility. Just the IT guy. The worst was in September. We were at a backyard barbecue and I overheard Brad talking to my dad by the grill. "You must worry about Dirk's future." Brad was saying, his voice low, but not low enough. "Tech jobs are so unstable. Always getting outsourced, replaced by younger kids who will work for less. He should really think about building more tangible skills." My dad mumbled something non-committal, flipping burgers. I stood near the back door, frozen, pretending I had not heard. But I had. Every word. And what hurt most was not what Brad said. It was that my dad did not defend me. Did not tell Brad that maybe he did not know the whole story. Just stayed silent and kept cooking. I could have said something. I could have pulled Brad aside and explained exactly what I did, who I was in the professional world. But I did not. Pride, maybe. Or the belief that if someone respects you, they should respect you without needing proof of your worth. So I stayed quiet and let Brad keep underestimating me. Then came mid-November. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I was working late at the office. We had a major project launching in December, and I was deep into strategy meetings, budget approvals, and team coordination. My phone buzzed on the desk. A text from Mom. "Honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving." I called her back immediately. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice before she even spoke. "What is going on, Mom?" She sighed. "Brad talked to Emily. He thinks it would be better if you did not come this year." I felt the air leave my lungs. "What? Why, he said you would kill the vibe." Her voice cracked slightly. "He is inviting his family and he wants everything to be perfect. You know how he is about these things." I sat there in my office looking out at the Denver skyline lit up against the night. My own mother was uninviting me from Thanksgiving because my brother-in-law thought I was not good enough to be there. "I am so sorry, sweetheart," Mom continued. "Maybe it is just this year. We will make it up to you at Christmas." "It is okay, Mom," I heard myself say. "I understand." But I did not understand. I did not understand how my own family could let this happen, how Emily could go along with it, how my parents could choose keeping the peace over standing up for their son. After I hung up, I sat in the darkness of my office for a long time. I could have sent a group text right then, could have explained everything, attached a photo of my business card, my office door, my title, proved to all of them that Brad was wrong about me. But something stopped me. If they valued me so little that they would believe Brad's assessment without question, did they deserve to know the truth? Would it even matter? I decided it would not. I decided to stay silent. Let them have their perfect Thanksgiving with Brad holding court talking about his sales numbers and his BMW. I would know the truth, and that would be enough. Thanksgiving came and went. I stayed in my apartment, ordered pizza, watched football, and tried not to think about my family gathered around the table without me. I imagined Brad at the head of the table carving the turkey, telling stories, basking in the attention. I imagined Emily laughing at his jokes, my parents smiling and nodding. I imagined the empty chair where I should have been sitting. But I also focused on work. The week before Thanksgiving, I had received an email from our CEO. TechVantage Solutions was expanding our sales division. We needed to hire a new sales director, someone who understood both traditional sales and digital transformation. Someone who could bridge the gap between old-school relationship building and modern technology-driven customer engagement. As Senior Director of Digital Innovation, I was assigned to manage the hiring process. I would be interviewing all the final candidates personally. On Monday, after Thanksgiving, I came into the office and found a stack of resumes on my desk. I started going through them, reading cover letters, checking credentials. I was halfway through the pile when I saw a name that made me stop cold. Brad Taylor. I read it again to make sure. There it was. His resume, his cover letter, his application to TechVantage Solutions for the position of sales director. He was looking for a new opportunity, wanted to move into a larger company, felt his skills were perfect for driving growth in the tech sector. I checked the details twice. Same person, same Brad, my brother-in-law who thought I fixed printers for a living. I sat back in my chair and laughed. Not a bitter laugh, not a vengeful laugh. Just genuine surprise at the universe's timing. Brad had applied to my company for a position I was hiring for without having any idea that I worked here, let alone that I would be the one interviewing him. I could have rejected him immediately, could have made sure his application never made it to the final round. But that is not who I am. I believe in fairness and professionalism, in giving people a real chance based on merit. So I reviewed his resume objectively. His experience was decent. Not exceptional, but decent. He had solid sales numbers, good client relationships, respectable tenure at his current company. He made the shortlist. I scheduled his interview for Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Conference room on the 12th floor. I sent the confirmation email myself, signing it D. Morrison, Hiring Manager. Brad would not know who D. Morrison was until he walked into that room. Thursday morning arrived cold and crisp. Snow dusted the streets of Denver, and the mountains in the distance stood sharp against the blue sky. I got to the office early, dressed in my best charcoal suit and navy tie. I prepared the conference room carefully. Laptop open, documents, organized, questions ready. And on the door, clearly visible, was the nameplate that read, Dirk Morrison, Senior Director of Digital Innovation. At 8:55, my assistant called. "Mr. Morrison, Mr. Taylor is here for his 9 o'clock interview." "Send him up," I said. I sat down at the head of the conference table and waited. At exactly 9 o'clock, the door opened. Brad walked in carrying a leather portfolio, wearing a sharp black suit, exuding the confidence of someone who had done 100 interviews and aced them all. He looked around the room, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the expensive furniture, the high-tech presentation equipment. Then his eyes landed on the nameplate on the desk. I watched his face change. The confidence drained away like water from a broken glass. His skin went from healthy tan to pale white in the space of a heartbeat. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. His eyes, which had been scanning the room with assurance, now locked onto mine with something between shock and fear. "Dirk." His voice came out smaller than I had ever heard it. I stood up and extended my hand across the table. "Good morning, Brad. Please have a seat." He shook my hand limply, his palm slightly sweaty despite the cold morning. He sat down in the chair across from me, placing his portfolio on the table with hands that trembled just enough to notice. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I could see him trying to process what was happening, trying to reconcile the Dirk he thought he knew with the person sitting across from him in this position of power. I did not know you worked here," he finally managed. I opened my laptop and pulled up his resume. "A lot of people do not. I prefer to keep a low profile." I looked up at him with a professional smile. "So, let us get started. Tell me about your current role and why you are interested in TechVantage solutions." Brad cleared his throat. He launched into what I am sure was a prepared speech about his sales achievements, his client relationships, his vision for growth. But the words came out stilted, lacking the smooth confidence he usually carried. He kept glancing at me as if checking whether I was buying it, whether this was real. I let him talk, taking notes on my laptop. When he finished, I asked my first question. "Our sales approach at TechVantage is heavily integrated with digital platforms. Can you walk me through your experience with CRM software, data analytics, and digital customer engagement strategies?" He answered, but I could tell he was struggling. His knowledge was surface-level buzzwords without depth. He knew how to use the tools, but did not understand the strategy behind them. I asked follow-up questions, digging deeper, and watched him fumble for answers. "How would you approach a client who is resistant to digital transformation but needs to modernize to stay competitive? What metrics do you use to evaluate the success of a long-term client relationship beyond immediate sales numbers? Describe a time when you had to collaborate with a technical team to solve a client problem." Each question revealed more gaps. Brad was a traditional salesman, good at relationships and closing deals, but he lacked the strategic thinking and technical literacy that this position required. He was not a bad candidate. He just was not the right candidate. And I would have reached that conclusion whether he was my brother-in-law or a complete stranger. 20 minutes into the interview, Brad tried to change direction. "Dirk, listen about Thanksgiving." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I did not mean anything by that. You know how it is. Emily wanted everything perfect for my family, and I just thought—" I held up my hand, keeping my voice professional but firm. "This is a professional interview, Brad. Let us focus on your qualifications for this position." He stopped, realizing he had crossed a line. We were not family right now. We were interviewer and candidate. Nothing more. I continued with my questions, moving through leadership style, conflict resolution, long-term career goals. Brad answered each one, but the energy had shifted. He knew he was not performing well. I could see it in the way his shoulders slumped slightly, the way he kept adjusting his tie, the way his confident smile had disappeared completely. After 45 minutes, I closed my laptop. "Thank you for your time, Brad. We have several other candidates to interview this week. You will hear from us within 2 weeks with our decision." He stood up, extending his hand again. This time, his handshake was weak, defeated. "Thanks, Dirk. I hope we can still be family regardless of how this goes." I looked him in the eye, holding his gaze steady. "We are family, Brad. That is exactly why I am treating you like every other candidate. No favoritism, no bias, fair and professional, just like everyone else who walks through that door." He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of what I had just said. He picked up his portfolio and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back once. "For what it is worth, I was wrong about you." "Yes," I said simply. "You were." After Brad left, I sat alone in the conference room for a few minutes. I reviewed my notes, compared them with the other candidates I had interviewed. There were 2 others with stronger technical backgrounds, better understanding of digital integration, more strategic vision for the role we needed to fill. Brad was not the worst candidate I had ever interviewed, but he was not the best either. And in a competitive field, being decent was not enough. I made my decision based purely on qualifications. A week later, I sent Brad a polite rejection email. Thank you for your interest in TechVantage Solutions. After careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates whose experience more closely aligns with our current needs. We appreciate the time you took to meet with us and wish you success in your career. That same afternoon, my phone rang. It was Emily. Dirk. Her voice was tight, strained. Brad told me what happened, about the interview, about your job. I did not know. We did not know. I know you did not, I said quietly. Why did you not tell us? Why did you let us think you were just... She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Just what, Emily? Just some IT guy who fixes computers? Just your underachieving little brother? I kept my voice calm, not angry, just honest. I did not tell you because I wanted to see if you would respect me without needing to know my job title or salary. I guess I got my answer. There was a long silence on the other end. I am sorry, she finally said, and I could hear tears in her voice. I should have defended you. At Thanksgiving before that, all those times Brad said those things, I should have stood up for you. You are right, I agreed. You should have. Can you forgive me? I thought about that question. Forgiveness is complicated. It is not a switch you flip. It is a process, a choice you make over and over. I am not angry, Emily. I am disappointed. There is a difference. But yeah, with time, we will be okay. We talked a little longer. She asked about my job, really asked, listening this time, instead of just waiting for her turn to talk. I told her about my work, my team, the projects I was proud of. She cried a little more, apologized a little more. By the end of the call, something had shifted between us. Not fixed, but beginning to heal. The weeks that followed were strange. Brad became quieter at family gatherings, less sure of himself. He did not make jokes at my expense anymore. He did not talk down to me. In fact, he barely talked to me at all. I think the shame was too much for him. He had built an entire image of himself as superior, more successful, more worldly than me. Having that image shattered in a 45-minute interview broke something in him. I did not gloat. I did not rub it in. I treated him the same way I treated everyone else, with basic respect and courtesy, because that is who I am. That is who I have always been. Christmas came and my mom called. Please come home, Dirk, please. It would not be Christmas without you. I went. I drove to my parents' house on Christmas Eve carrying presents for everyone. When I walked in, my dad hugged me tighter than he had in years. My mom cried and held my face in her hands. Emily hugged me and whispered another apology. Brad shook my hand and said, I am glad you are here. We had dinner together and it was different. Better. My parents asked about my work with genuine interest. They listened when I talked about challenges and victories. They did not compare me to Emily anymore. They saw me, really saw me, maybe for the first time in years. After dinner, I sat by the fireplace while everyone else cleaned up. The flames danced and crackled, throwing warm light across the room. My dad came and sat next to me. I am proud of you, son, he said quietly. Not because of your job title or your success. I am proud of how you handled all of this. You could have been bitter vengeful, but you were not. You stayed true to yourself. Thanks, Dad, I said, and I meant it. As I drove home that night, snow falling gently on the windshield, I thought about the journey I had been on. Not just the career journey, but the personal one. The journey of learning who I was, separate from other people's opinions. The journey of understanding that my worth did not depend on external validation. I thought about Brad and that interview. I did not reject him because of Thanksgiving. I rejected him because he was not the best candidate. And somehow that felt more powerful than any revenge could have been. I had stayed professional, fair, true to my principles. I had not let personal feelings compromise my integrity. I learned that silence can be stronger than words. That you do not owe explanations to people who have already decided who you are. That real success is not about proving others wrong. It is about knowing your own value regardless of whether anyone else sees it. I learned that family relationships are complicated. People make mistakes. They let you down. But that does not mean the relationship is over. It means there is work to do, healing to happen, growth to achieve. Emily and I were rebuilding. My parents were learning to see me differently. Even Brad was changing, humbled by the experience. And I learned that sometimes the best response to being underestimated is no response at all. No explanations, no justifications, no desperate attempts to prove your worth. Just quiet confidence in who you are and what you bring to the world. Let your work speak for itself. Let your character shine through your actions. And when the moment comes when the truth reveals itself, naturally let it happen without gloating or bitterness. That Thanksgiving. The one where I was uninvited turned out to be a gift. It showed me who I was at my core when stripped of family approval. It taught me about dignity, about self-respect, about the strength it takes to stay silent when every part of you wants to defend and explain. It taught me that sometimes the people who should know you best are the ones who see you least clearly. And that is okay. You do not need everyone to understand you. You just need to understand yourself. So here I am, months later, sitting in my office overlooking Denver. I have a job I love, a team that respects me, work that challenges and fulfills me. I have a family that is slowly learning to see me as I really am. And I have peace, the kind of peace that comes from staying true to your values, even when it would be easier not to. Sometimes I think about that text message from my mom. You are not coming to Thanksgiving. Your sister's husband says you would kill the vibe. I thought it was an ending. Turns out it was a beginning. The beginning of standing up for myself in the quietest, most powerful way possible. The beginning of understanding that respect is not demanded. It is earned through consistency, integrity, and quiet strength. And that Thursday morning when Brad walked into the conference room and saw my name on the door, when his face went white with shock and realization, that was not revenge. That was truth. Truth revealing itself in its own time, in its own way, without me having to force it. That is the kind of victory worth having. Not loud, not boastful, not cruel. Just honest. Just real. Just true. Have you ever been underestimated by someone close to you? Have you ever had to choose between defending yourself and letting your actions speak louder than words? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear how you handled it. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth is not determined by other people's opinions. Stay strong, stay true, and remember that sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. Just being authentically, unapologetically yourself. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.